Liberty in our lifetimes in a free state of our own. That's the vision. That's the dream. And we are building it in New Hampshire. I'm Eric Brakey, your host and renegade statesman for the Porcupine Report. Welcome to your source for porcupine news and free-range conversation on matters of liberty. All right, let's hop into the show. Hey there, and welcome all you porcupines. This is your host, your renegade statesman, your executive director of the New Hampshire Free State Project, Eric Brakey. So glad to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us for episode 62 of the Porcupine Report. A little bit of Porcupine Free State news before we get into our conversation today, which is going to be a fantastic conversation as usual. First, I want to say congratulations to all the Bitcoin enthusiasts in New Hampshire. Congratulations to Representative Keith Ammon, a Free Stater and a leader on crypto policy in the state legislature. Just the other week, Representative Keith Ammon was speaking. He was one of our main stage speakers at the 2025 New Hampshire Liberty Forum. And if you were there, I'm sure you got to see his remarks. Great remarks. He is the author of a bill that has been working its way through the New Hampshire House and Senate to establish in the state a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Now, today, as of the day that we're recording this, which is Tuesday, so this is coming out tomorrow. So by the time you get this, it will have been yesterday. That bill was signed into law by Governor Kelly Ayotte, making New Hampshire the very first state, the leading state, first in the nation to establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And what does that mean? Really, it just means that the state treasurer is given options. When the state treasurer is holding funds for kind of long-term financial stability of the state, he can hold those in dollars. He can hold them in bonds or stocks or various different assets. New Hampshire will be the very first state to allow the treasurer to hold state assets in Bitcoin. Also, other cryptocurrencies are allowed as well, but they have to meet certain standards. And at this point in time, the only cryptocurrency that meets those standards is Bitcoin. And also in this legislation, it also authorizes the state treasurer to also hold state assets in gold and silver. So that was a bill that I sponsored myself in the state of Maine on gold and silver. I wasn't so ambitious to try to get Bitcoin through in that regard, but even gold and silver was too much to ask for with some of these Democrat politicians in Maine. But in New Hampshire is leading the way. There is a reason why New Hampshire is known as, and maybe, I don't know, maybe I coined this phrase, so I don't know how widely known it is, or maybe someone told me this. I don't know. I don't want to take credit for ideas that weren't mine, but maybe it was mine. I don't know. The granite cradle of crypto. Look, it's not, we can't claim that Bitcoin was like invented in New Hampshire, but New Hampshire and the Free State movement is certainly where where Bitcoin was nurtured and rocked in the cradle and nursed until it grew big and strong. To be the multi-trillion-dollar asset that it is today. Some of the earliest adopters and evangelists for Bitcoin were right here in New Hampshire. In fact, the first time I learned about Bitcoin was back in, I think it was 2013, maybe it was 2014. Can't remember the year exactly, but it was my very first New Hampshire Liberty Forum I attended, and there was someone there. It might have been Roger Ver, for all I know, who was telling everyone about Bitcoin and giving out, 5 cents worth of Bitcoin, helping you install a wallet on your phone so you could have it. And shame on me, I didn't act on it. I had that 5 cents there. I checked it a few years later. It was worth $10. All of us wish that we had acted sooner. But in this case, New Hampshire continues to be the first and is leading the way. And I will say Arizona was nearly the first, except that their Democratic governor vetoed the bill. Our Republican governor signed the bill. So I suppose that's part of the difference. So congratulations to Representative Keith Ammon. I know that this is a big, something you've been working towards for a very long time, and many people have been involved in this effort to keep New Hampshire on the forefront of these emerging technologies, with tools that allow us to challenge the Federal Reserve's monopoly control over our entire monetary system. So great news there. A few other pieces of news I want to share. All of the videos from the main stage talks at the New Hampshire Liberty Forum, we are in the process of processing them. First of all, I want to give thanks to our producer for this show, Renita, who is also processing all of our video content from Liberty Forum. We have just begun publishing those videos on Free State Project social media platforms, on Facebook, on X, on YouTube, and we're going to be releasing one a day until they're gone. So about a month. We've got about a month of content to get through. So be sure to be following us on social media if you want to catch those videos. Just the day that we're recording this, we just released the video of our VIP keynote speaker, Jeff Deist. The day before that, we had Bruce Fenton, who was talking about Bitcoin. I don't remember who we've got scheduled the next couple of days, but I'm sure Angela McCardle's in there, and we're kind of prioritizing some of our keynote speakers and our sponsors, and those are coming out first. But you will see regular content pretty much every single day going forward. And then before you know it, we're going to have all that done before PorcFest, and then PorcFest is going to be here. We're going to be talking a little bit about PorcFest and Bitcoin. There's a couple of topics today, but I do want to say up front, get your tickets to PorcFest. It is coming up very soon, June 16th through the 22nd. And we really want to have you there. And you want to be there. Great speakers are coming out who can talk about a wide variety of things. We've got Joel Salatin, one of the leaders of the food freedom movement, coming out for this festival, which is very appropriate. Our theme is Taste the Revolution. And he will be speaking early in the week. We'll have Scott Horton, the author of the great book Provoked. He'll be giving another foreign policy talk. And I've also heard that Scott Horton, if you're a fan of Scott Horton, not only will you get to hear him give one of his great foreign policy rants, I call it a rant, but I mean that affectionately. He goes on he's very passionate and also very well informed. But I'm also told that he may be participating in our stand-up comedy night. So if you've never seen Scott Horton do stand-up comedy, I certainly haven't, then this is your chance at PorcFest. And so many other great speakers. Go to porcfest.com and see them all. Also really happy about what we've got lined up this year with our Porcupines, our programming for kids. By popular demand, the mock legislature is going to be back. I will be overseeing that myself, working with kids 10 to 17. So let me say kids, older kids and teens. And we'll be going through the entire process, how a bill becomes a law. We'll be taking their ideas. They'll be electing their own Speaker of the House and taking a bill through the whole lawmaking process. They had a lot of fun with that last year, and we're going to do it all again. So be sure to get your tickets for PorcFest for attendees young and old and everywhere in between. We'd love to see you there. And as a special thank you to you for being a listener or watcher of this program, Granite Gulch is your discount code for 10% off of PorcFest tickets. So use Granite Gulch, get 10% off. Right now, ticket prices for adults are set at $100, so you'd get it for $90. But you want to act fast because ticket prices are actually going up on May 16th. So that's 1 month out from the start of PorcFest. Ticket prices are going up to $125. So act now, get your tickets now. Wouldn't it be so much nicer to get it for $90 versus $125? Why would you wait? Get your tickets now. PorcFest.com, pork with a C, not a K, because while we are tasting the revolution, it is still a freedom festival, a Porcupine Freedom Festival, not a barbecue festival, but we're going to have great barbecue. There's going to be great food. Taste the revolution. Come on out. See you there. All right, let's get into our conversation for today's program. Well, today, usually I have one guest on the program, though we've had a few exceptions there. I remember our Christmas episode. We had 4 guests on, and we talked about Christmas in the Free State. Great episode. Today, we're going to have 2 guests on the program, but my caveat is that they both have the same first name. So they are both named Josh, so we're getting Josh squared. 2 Joshes for the price of 1, 2 great guests, and they have a story that they're going to be sharing with us about Bitcoin, about Porcupine Freedom Festival, the Porcupine Freedom Festival, where people come together and great things happen. So let me introduce our guest. Our first guest is, and he'll have to correct me, I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right, Joshua Groth. Joshua Groth. He is an adventurer athlete, commercial pilot, and Bitcoin educator. In 2019, driven by concerns over the loss of individual freedoms, he deepened his study of economics and history, leading him always back to Bitcoin. With a background in risk management and commercial aviation, Joshua founded Nova Sapien and has applied his skills to developing best practices for using, securing, and recovering Bitcoin, which is going to play into the story that we're going to hear today. And then also joining us is Josh Swift, who is a longtime Bitcoin holder whose life took an unexpected turn. After facing family health issues, job losses, and relationship difficulties, everything changed when he met Josh Groth at the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Oh, I was just telling you about that. It's a great place to be. After recovering his Bitcoin with the Nova Sapiens team, he's now leveraging his financial background to support 2 Bitcoin startups. He'll be sharing his story from personal challenges to professional reinvention in the Bitcoin space. So let's welcome to the show Joshua Groth and Josh Swift. Hey, Joshes, good to have you on the program. Good to see you both.
Eric.
Well, I guess Joshua Groth. So I'm just gonna call you guys Groth and Swift just for the sake of clarity.
Sounds good.
We'll start with Groth. Josh, tell us your story. How you got into Bitcoin, and what brought you to the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and then maybe how you met Josh Swift. And then Josh, you could tell us a little bit about your story and how the two of you came together and the magic that happened at PorcFest.
Yeah. Well, first, I just want to say you got me all fired up for PorcFest this year. It sounds like it's going to be a great year, some great presenters. So that's really exciting. Also, just hearing about the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, today's a big day, an important day for me. I think in the U.S., seeing the U.S. adopt Bitcoin, it makes me really excited about the future with that. So that's extremely exciting. But yeah, my history with Bitcoin, how I came to Bitcoin. I mean, over the years, I kind of was aware of it, and I understood the importance of hard money just from an intuitive perspective. I studied economics in high school. It didn't make sense to me. And I always had the Austrian perspective in the background. But it wasn't until like 2019, 2020, when COVID was running rampant and I saw the world kind of coming apart, the like one stream narrative that was just blaring around the world from the legacy media and these kinds of like global movements. I was like, I just wanted to understand things better. So I studied economics and history and tried to like better understand the world. And what I kept coming back to was the idea that the world needs a hard money as a foundation for individual freedoms. If we don't have economic freedom, we don't have freedom. We have to have the ability to save and the ability to transact with each other as a foundation, truly as a foundation. So that's kind of what has made me so passionate about Bitcoin and watching how that has changed my life. Like I'm an adventure athlete. Behind me, you can see some of my toys. Here, I live, I breathe adventure in the mountains. I love exploring. I love the pioneering spirit of adventure, and freedom, I guess, has always been a really important part of that to me. Being able to take to the skies. Base jumping is like a little bit rebellious as well. So my life changed once I discovered Bitcoin, in the sense that I had the ability to save. Whereas in the past, I would save up for an expedition or something. I'd go somewhere. I'd spend my money on 3 weeks in Patagonia, climbing walls with some of the most amazing people I know. And this was really fun. But it wasn't until I started saving in Bitcoin that I started realizing that I could invest in my future. And that slowly started changing the relationships in my life. It changed the things that were important to me. And it kind of made me realize that the future is far more exciting when the world has the ability to save. So that's my Bitcoin story. And then PorcFest, I was invited to speak at PorcFest by friend Gene Epstein. So you know Gene well, I assume.
Oh yeah, he just moderated a debate between me and Andrew Heaton at the New Hampshire Liberty Forum. So we love Gene.
Hell yeah. Yeah, well, Gene, I met Gene in Colorado, and he liked my ideas on economics and perspective on Bitcoin. He invited me to present on Bitcoin and economics at PorcFest, which I did. And I guess this might be a good segue to Josh to Swift, I came and introduced the Nova Sapien self-custody kit, which uses like a seed signer and other things to secure your keys for Bitcoin. I presented on this, and yeah, maybe Josh, this is a good time for Josh to take his story.
Yeah, so Josh Swift, how did you get involved in this scene, and what brought you to PorcFest, and then how did the two Joshes meet up?
Sure. So when I was in my early 20s, I was a technologist, web developer, and something told me that I needed to learn about Linux. And so I downloaded Ubuntu and started looking into Linux. And once I had it installed, I asked myself, what now? And so I did a quick search, and Bitcoin Pizza Day had recently happened, and as a result, saturated the search results. So one of the first things that came up was, well, you could install Bitcoin on your Linux. So that's what I did. And then I fooled around with it for a little while and promptly forgot about it for a very long time. And then I don't know, a couple years ago now, I had a thought that maybe I should buy Bitcoin. And then it hit me that I already had Bitcoin. So it seemed impossible. It'd been a very long time. I completely lost track of it over the years, everything else going on in my life. So I went around my house and dug around my garage and finally reached my shed and found a box of hard drives. And I found one that I thought might be the hard drive that I had put the Bitcoin on a long, long time ago. And around that same time, my life was getting really, really hard, and it was getting harder and harder. My family was having some health issues. My mother was sick, and she didn't really have anyone to take care of her. So I was circling the wagons around her. And as a result of doing that, I lost my jobs and had relationship issues. So in the midst of that brought low, I decided to try and find my people. And on a wing and a prayer, I went to PorcFest, and that's where I met Josh Groth. He mentioned in his self-custody Bitcoin workshop that he had helped some people recover some Bitcoin. And I thought, there was this chance that I had this Bitcoin on this hard drive. I wasn't entirely sure. So I approached him and I asked him if he would help me recover it. He told me he would if I would fly to Boulder, Colorado. And then about 2 weeks later, I did. And about a week after that, he and his team helped me recover a life-changing amount of Bitcoin.
Hell yeah.
Well, it's an amazing story to hear, because I feel like I've heard a lot of similar stories that don't end up in, and I got my Bitcoin back. I've heard so many stories. I mean, obviously, I think anyone can understand it, right? You early involvement in Bitcoin back when it's kind of a novelty, it's worth like maybe a couple cents a Bitcoin, and you have a few kind of on your computer. I know plenty of people said, "Oh yeah, I spent it all on the Silk Road." What were you buying on the Silk Road? Anyway, they think, "Oh, if only I'd held on to it." Or people, there's the infamous case of, I think there's a guy who, like, he knows that his hard drive with a bunch of Bitcoin is in this, like, it is in this landfill somewhere, and if he can only find it, or people just, back when it was, a couple bucks worth of Bitcoin, it didn't really seem like something worth safeguarding and protecting. But now that a Bitcoin is like, floating around $100,000 a Bitcoin, if you bought a good handful when they were, 10 cents, that's quite a bit. But that a lot of people have lost it. So hearing the recovery is awesome. So congratulations to you that you did get, and I appreciate you kind of being discreet. I'm sure you want to be like a life-changing amount of Bitcoin recovered for you. How, I guess, Josh Groth, like, what is the process to help someone? Obviously, I'm sure it's got to be specific circumstances. I'm sure you can't help in every case, depending on the technical limitations there. But like, what's the process there, and how would you go about helping someone who had lost access to their Bitcoin?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've managed to recover. Well, really, my team. I have a good friend in Australia, a good friend here, Hunter Beast, who's writing a Bitcoin improvement protocol for quantum proofing Bitcoin. Some really just exceptional humans with a lot of skill, and we've recovered a number of wallets now successfully, which is really exciting. But the reality is, it's very most of the wallet recoveries that come to us are people who have been scammed out of their Bitcoin. They're saying, "Oh, I sent this exchange my Bitcoin, and I need to get it back now." And obviously, that's not really Bitcoin, not your keys, not your coins. We all know the saying. But the types of things where someone could recover their Bitcoin are where you have a hard drive where your keys are on that hard drive, and the hard drive is been corrupted or is damaged or has it's so old. A lot of these really old keys, the modern wallets don't recognize them, so you have to use old wallet software for them. If someone has an old crypto wallet like Mycelium that has mixed up the derivation paths, they've somehow created a legacy address, and they don't put guardrails on their code. I should take back the name Mycelium. I mean, nothing against software, but there's an old versions that have these quirks, stuff like that. We're able to get in there and specify non-standard derivation paths, or get into these old hard drives. Some of them are encrypted with soft encryption, so you can get around it. There are certain devices like the Trezor hardware wallet, which can be hacked if you have the equipment.
That's good to know, because that's what I use. So.
Oh yeah, I think people can get into a Trezor in 20-30 minutes if you have the right knowledge and stuff, which might be a benefit, but that kind of leads to like the.
All right, I'll make sure I keep it locked up and so.
Lock it up, or come to one of our self-custody courses. We are a big proponent of free open source software, democratizing the use of Bitcoin, so away from like companies that like hardware wallet companies, and to multi-signature environments, or towards a seed signer or things like that. Everything has its place, but I really am a proponent of free open source kind of in projects.
Awesome. I'm curious, and I imagine in addition to just talking about the story here, there's a lot of kind of, I think, topics to explore around Bitcoin, since I have two folks who are very, very deeply immersed in it all. I know, I heard someone describe it as like, lost Bitcoin, Bitcoin that's on a hard drive somewhere, or hard drives destroyed or lost and what have you, that it's kind of like old ships at the bottom of the sea from the 1500s with just gold and silver on it. And, where is it? How do you recover it? And that, and there's a certain profit to be made in figuring out how. And you mentioned the preparing people's wallets for quantum computing. First of all, how soon, do we have to be worried about quantum computing? As far as make sure we have security of the Bitcoins in our custody. And when we get to the age of quantum computing, understanding that people will be able to upgrade their security to be protected on that, does that mean that like all of the Bitcoin that has been lost on the metaphorical floor of the sea, that suddenly that's recoverable with enterprising people with access to quantum computing? So I guess as we run out of like Bitcoin to mine in the traditional sense, there will be these the crashed ships of Bitcoin on the floor of the sea to grab with quantum computing.
Yeah, well, I guess the first thing to just emphasize is Bitcoin's ultimate scarcity. If you find the Bitcoin that's been lost, it doesn't affect the scarcity of the Bitcoin. But if you lose Bitcoin, it's still scarce. It's just more scarce, so the value goes up. So there's that small little up and down, but essentially, everyone in the world will have to worry about quantum computing eventually. For all of our systems, we'll have to develop new new cryptography that's quantum resistant, quantum proof. With Bitcoin, it's a bit of a like people get a little worried about it, but the reality is there only are certain addresses that are vulnerable. A lot of these are old addresses, Satoshi's old addresses. They each have 50 Bitcoin per address from the first days of Bitcoin. And a lot of, that's referred to as the Satoshi shield. So economically, it doesn't make sense for someone who's trying to crack these old addresses to crack your address, which has, I don't know how many Bitcoin, 2 or 3 Bitcoin only, Eric, but on your little Trezor. But it would be.
I'll never tell how much.
There you go. They'll only ever.
In fact, it already lost it in a tragic boating accident.
I know, exactly right. Same. Yeah. But instead, they would go for Satoshi's addresses, which are vulnerable.
So those are kind of like the canary in the coal mine.
Exactly. Yeah.
The moment we see that those have been hacked, that's when quantum computing is here, and we are gonna want to upgrade our.
And they may take millions of dollars per address or hundreds of thousands of dollars of compute power theoretically when quantum computing theoretically cracks these old addresses. This is still up for debate whether that's happening. In 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, who knows? That's all. I'm not sure. I don't claim to be an expert on that. But when it does happen, it would be some time before these Bitcoin addresses are collected.
Well, awesome. Anyway, I'm just curious about that. My wife is always kind of making me worry about what quantum computing might do. So, nice to hear that there's some tripwires in place first before we have to be
for sure
concerned there. So, let me ask you, I guess, but both Josh's, was it when you guys came out and met, was this your first time at PorcFest? And I guess aside from the Bitcoin connection there, any kind of PorcFest experiences you want to share?
It was absolutely my first time at PorcFest. I had a political awakening as a teenager, not soon after 9/11. Where, I discovered, things were not as I was told they were. And
you figured it out faster than I did. So
yeah, went down the rabbit hole. And I think that probably has to do with why I was primed to think that Bitcoin was anything other than a scam a long, long time ago. That I knew that the Federal Reserve and the fiat system was essentially doomed to failure one way or the other. And so I was seeking out alternatives, as many people do. And at any rate, the festival is just populated with a ton of libertarians and anarcho-capitalists, and my studying of political theory and whatnot has driven me to anarcho-capitalism, and that's why I said earlier that I felt like I was going to find my people, and I did find my people there. There were many great people there, very smart people, intellectual people, deep thinkers, serious people, and fun people too. But just a medley of just wonderful people, and I was very thankful to not just meet Groth there, but also make all of the connections at PorcFest that I did, and see all the talks, and participate with the various speakers at that time. I was I did ask questions, and they were very welcoming of my questions, and there was a good solid back and forth, and I left that experience feeling validated, as if I had, really found my people. And I really look forward to going back again and involving myself in the community and sharing my story and promoting Bitcoin. And honestly, it was a once in a lifetime experience, and I hope to repeat it.
All right. I hope it'll be a twice in a lifetime experience for you.
There you go.
And we'll keep bringing you back. Of course, every PorcFest is, it's composed of the people who are there, so everyone's a little bit different. We're glad to have you back. And Josh Groth, I appreciate your coming back. And I should note that your company Nova Sapien is one of our sponsors this year, which we really appreciate. That apparently had such a good experience. You want to kind of help us put that on again. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, it was incredible last year. Just the amount of people who were grateful to have someone to bring substance to the ephemeral kind of idea of Bitcoin. People are like, boil the oceans, scam, crypto, meddling Bitcoin in with crypto, et cetera, et cetera. Someone who can just to talk about Bitcoin. I think that was really good. Then we have our self-custody kits and workshops, which were really well received. I was really grateful to be able to be there and really, be amongst all the libertarian-minded people. But personally, I don't really have a affiliation with a political party or movement, but I celebrate a diversity of opinion and diversity of viewpoint. And I recognize that we need to have a free market of ideas, a free market of just in general, the like truth doesn't need to be defended. It just needs to be able to be said. So that's something that really rings true to me. And that's what has brought me, back over and over through my life to the libertarian movement, which is really inspiring to me. And your work, I think Dave Smith is inspiring to me and all that. So yeah, anyways, I'm just passionate about Bitcoin and about PorcFest and about the freedom ideas around that.
Well, we're looking forward to having you both there. And I'm curious, I want to ask you a question that we actually explored the other week at the New Hampshire Liberty Forum. We had a panel discussion with a number of individuals. It'll eventually be going up as we release the video content from Liberty Forum. But we had a panel discussion. It was with Bruce Fenton, Joel Valenzuela, Aaron Day, and Matt Ping, all folks kind of in the Bitcoin and otherwise cryptocurrency communities here in New Hampshire. And the question was, whatever happened to crypto adoption? So I think it is certainly clear that Bitcoin has really established itself as a store of value. Certainly, I mean, when it's kind of it's going to it's surpassed 100K. It's floating around that. It's been it's been a great kind of source for, I think, good people to get rich.
The best performing asset ever over the last 15 years. Is that right?
Well, you're the expert, not me. So I'll take your word.
So.
I'll take your word. I mean, going from wherever it was, 15 years ago to 100,000 certainly speaks to that. Of course, there is a lot of volatility, and that should always be noted, and people should know what they're in for. But after kind of riding the it's like riding the roller coaster a few times. It's like, okay, it goes up and then it goes down, but it's always like it always seems to be a new floor that's higher than the last floor as the speculators hop in and hop out. But people who are kind of in it for the unique value prospect, that seems to grow, or at least more people are holding it. So it certainly seems to have established itself as a store of value, but a lot of the kind of initial promise and I'm sure some of the folks who, like, I think Roger Ver and others who were early evangelists for Bitcoin have since kind of taken a different tact on it. And I'm an agnostic on these questions, other than the fact that I pretty much exclusively hold Bitcoin, but I don't claim to be an expert. People would argue, well, this was supposed to be a medium of exchange. This was supposed to be something that people were using for transactions, as something that could kind of replace the dollar and fiat currency as a way for kind of market transactions. And in fact, I look around New Hampshire in particular, where maybe 10 years ago we were really celebrating how many stores and restaurants and places were accepting Bitcoin in payment for services, and it actually seems to be less today than maybe it was 10 years ago. I'm curious, like, I guess for either of you, if you'd like to chime in. But specifically Josh, I'm joking because you're both Josh. Whatever happened to crypto adoption and Bitcoin adoption as a medium of exchange, and if it's not, if all we have is a store, is it really functioning as a really great store of value? Is that enough? Or does it eventually get to the point where the volatility settles and we see it kind of being used more as a medium of exchange? Like, what I'd be curious for your takes and perspectives on that.
Yeah, I might take that one first, Josh.
Yeah,
please.
Or Swift. So I think it's a great question. A lot of people are asking the same thing. They're like, Bitcoin is like, it's supposed to be money, but we're not using it. What's going on? And I think this asks the fundamental question about what is money. And I guess you can define money as a store of value, unit of account, and a medium of exchange. And money, and I think that a foundation from an Austrian perspective especially affects the rest of our world. It's like a foundation, and that will give the incentives for whether you're going to have a high time preference or a low time preference, meaning are you going to forego consumption for later gain and invest in your future, or are you going to consume in the moment, enjoy life, enjoy the moment? And so I think money doesn't break down as a medium of exchange, because our money right now is actually a great medium of exchange. You can go back and forth, and a unit of account, although it gets less, inflation's getting less, it's actually working out as a unit of account. We can sell like how many hours do I have to work before for like a loaf of bread or a carton of eggs. So the unit of exchange and medium of exchange and unit of account typically don't break down as money unless you're Argentina's sake or something. But your store of value function is where the foundation comes from. So that's where that's what's broken. So it only makes sense, I think, at the moment that people are going to be using Bitcoin as a store of value. And in the future, the medium of exchange on the Lightning Network or on Bitcoin-backed currencies or something like that, there are infinite possibilities in a free world for Bitcoin to be anything that it needs to be. But based on its usefulness, I think that its store of value is what we're missing right now, and so that's why people are gravitating towards it as a store of value.
So your argument is that what there is a market demand for right now is the store of value, because the dollar does not function that way.
Precisely
because of the gradual loss of purchasing power there from a variety of aspects, which of course we all know the primary one is the mass money printing that goes on. Yeah. And so Bitcoin is kind of filling that particular niche because there's a market demand for it. But I know there's also right, the old kind of saying that good money chases out bad, right? Right. So I know if I have a choice between spending dollars and spending Bitcoin, I know that the dollar is losing value and the Bitcoin long-term probably gaining in value, at least based on historic trends. And so I tend to think, well, unless I really like the person, and I know that they'll appreciate kind of getting a transaction in Bitcoin, I tend to think, I'll just spend my US dollars because that's going out of style.
Yeah.
So I suppose that makes a certain degree of sense.
Yeah.
If I may, I'll
go ahead.
add that I think we're pretty early in the adoption curve. That's sort of a meme now in Bitcoin circles. We're early. And my study of the history of this is that during the block size wars, it was sort of decided by the community that it was more important initially that Bitcoin be a store of value. And that, in my estimation, as adoption grows, the ecosystem matures, it'll expand organically into a medium of exchange.
So when I know, and I remember I was talking to Professor St. Onge several years back, and he was touting the Lightning Network as a kind of, hey, here's a seamless way to do transactions without paying the kind of the high fees and being on the base layer of the blockchain. And but it doesn't seem to have caught on, despite people touting the technology is very effective. Do you think it's just that? Is it just why not use dollars? Why not get rid of your dollars? And good solution to a technical problem, but people aren't really demanding that solution yet.
Well, I think just today I was trying to get money from one person to another person's account for a paraglider that they were trying to buy, and man, that was hard. Bank, it's just a quagmire. The whole system is broken, and the whole time, every time I interact with the bank, and I think this is true for most people, especially for internationally, it's like, man, we can do better than this. And when you use a Lightning Network and you realize how functional it is, you realize that this is just a matter of time. It's a matter of I forget what the word is, but basically building out the infrastructure to adopt it. And I think with the recent administration, I don't make claims for pro-Republican, pro-Democrat, these kinds of things, but at the moment I'm celebrating so many wins for freedom with the current administration with regards to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, things like that. So I'm very grateful for that, and I'm expecting, and yeah, I think I saw Jack Dorsey with Cash App. What else was there? Man, I really should be up to speed on this, but there's going to be a tidal wave of adoption across the world, I think, in the coming year, in the coming 2 years, with the Lightning Network. I think already you see BTC Pay Server integrating seamlessly with Shopify and WooCommerce for e-commerce online. This allows people to pay in Bitcoin on the Lightning Network or on-chain just as easily as with a credit card or debit card. And that's instantaneous final settlement for just a couple cents per transaction. So that's when people start realizing what Bitcoin is. It's like the monkey 100 monkey syndrome. It's like that. I guess the analogy is like, right now we're on this beach and the sun is shining and the waves are crashing and everyone's wearing their bikinis and we're just enjoying ourselves, trying to beach ball around. But then the tide comes in, and before the tide comes in, people are in these boats and they're like, hey, come in the boat quickly. Like, you can be safe in here, use the boat, but we don't really care about it. And it's also tricky because you have to climb up over the boat. But as soon as the tide comes in and the storm comes over and the water's cold and we have hypothermia, it doesn't take a very intelligent person to say, all right, I need to climb into that boat and get warm with those wool blankets. And so the boat is Bitcoin. And I think when people need Bitcoin, it's very simple to realize that you need Bitcoin.
And certainly at that point in time, people will appreciate that someone prepared the boat.
Exactly. And that's what I'm doing. I'm super stoked on it. I'm passionate about it. I think Bitcoin changes the world. I think Bitcoin fixes a lot of the problems we have as giving people the ability to save, in a world where you can't save without trying to take from someone else right now, whether you're, having to own hard assets and only a select class of people can own them, and cheap debt, and you concentrate wealth from the people who are further away from the money printer. And that whole process of wealth concentration is the reason why you can't save. Why myself as an adventure athlete traveling the world, having the time of my life, I never really thought of the future or thought of family or thought of these long-term goals. And I never realized why I'd never thought about it. I just never thought about it. But then when I look back, it makes so much sense to me that the reason was because I had to speculate on equities, like which stock is going to go well. And instead of doing all that speculation now, I can simply go out, show up, fly my paragliders, be a pilot if I want, teach people about Bitcoin. And I don't have to worry about trying to speculate. I simply add value to the world, live within my means, and save for my future.
I know, reading years back, Saifedean's the Bitcoin Standard. And, one of the things that, first of all, book I highly recommend anyone who wants to kind of a good kind of intro crash course on not just Bitcoin, but Austrian economics and kind of the theory of money.
Absolutely.
But I thought one of the things he that still sticks with me today is just how he outlined just how much kind of this fiat money creates this high time preference society and affects every aspect of society around us in perverse ways that we wouldn't even think of, from our food systems to our architecture to art itself to everything. And in this Keynesian kind of hyper consumerism delusion that the way you create wealth is by just consuming and consuming and consuming, and not by saving, not by setting resources aside for long-term investment. And we eventually consume our own capital structure and we hollow out our economy. But boy, we could talk about that. But I
just real quickly,
yeah,
I picked this out when I was in high school. Actually, I'm kind of thinking back. I was kind of giving myself a pat on the back. I was like, the circular reasoning of Keynesian economics. It's like growth is an indication of a health of economy, because an economy that is growing is healthy, because growth is the indication of a health of economy. And so that whole idea that, and that assumption, which is not really backed by anything, like growth is not the indication of profit or health. It's simply the indication that we're consuming more things. So that's one of the lies that we are told in the Keynesian model of economics.
Oh yeah, and when we're just measuring GDP, where it's like a kayak that you purchase for yourself to create enjoyment in your life for your adventure athleticism is counted the same as in dollar value as a bomb that's purchased by the government to just blow people up overseas. It's like one of those actually enriched people's lives and one of those destroyed people's lives, and yet in the GDP kind of counting consumer spending figures, including government spending, it all counts the same, which is certainly that seems to suggest it's missing something. But I did want to, before we run out of time, I know Joshua Groth, we were talking offline when we were setting up this interview. I thought about an interesting topic, which was electricity and use of energy. I know this is one of the criticisms that's often leveled against Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining is the amount of electricity that it uses. This is what you hear this regularly from individuals like Senator Elizabeth Warren about why this is why Bitcoin mining should be banned, and people are it's wasteful and it's destroying the environment. And I certainly have some thoughts about that, but I know that you have some thoughts about that, Joshua. I wondered if you wanted to respond to if Elizabeth Warren was here right now, how would you respond to her?
Oh, would I ever love to? So I would tell Elizabeth Warren that energy is abundant in our universe, and that the indication that we should be worried about is not how much energy we're using, but about how much carbon we're committing into the atmosphere. And I think taking care of our planet is one of the most important things that we can possibly do. Not polluting. If we're putting out a bunch of CO2 in the atmosphere, you're working out how to sequester that back so we're not disturbing the balance. These kinds of things. I agree with all of the intentions. But if you say this is one of the isms and then you attack the label instead of attacking the problem, then that's one of the fallacies of our modern world. So I would say that energy is abundant, and that the reason why we can't access that energy often is because we don't have the infrastructure to be able to access it. A small town is stuck with this coal-fired power plant because they do not have the money to invest in a solar array or a wind turbine or geothermal or a more efficient power generation of some kind. And so they just year after year keep on burning diesel. I just got back from Thailand, and they literally have cylinders burning diesel, pumping this huge black smoke out into the island, and it blows through the city, and it's disgusting. And I was like, man, if they only had energy infrastructure like the ASICs for mining Bitcoin with, they'd be able to use that to fund efficient energy generation. And so this is something that is very, very inconvenient to the narrative. The truth that Bitcoin is one of the biggest drivers of renewable energies, because it allows you to create the energy infrastructure for clean energy and power cities with as much energy as they need. As soon as you finish that infrastructure, the manufacturing of the solar array, whatever energy generation you have, you put the throttle full blast, full power generation, all into your Bitcoin ASICs, and you secure the Bitcoin network. You help secure the largest computer network on Earth, and you get paid in proportion to how much energy you spend securing that network, and you can fund your equipment. Then, as soon as you need some electricity, you pull the throttle back a little bit, give your city as much energy as they need, and then you go back to mining Bitcoin in the middle of the night or the middle of the day when you don't need you no longer need the energy. So Texas is a really great example of this. They had some huge blackouts. They had similar storms once the Bitcoin miners had spooled up, and the Bitcoin miners were able to power down and buffer the grid, give everyone the energy they need. And they kind of saved, the Bitcoin miners were largely attributed to being able to, save the day during these energy crises in Texas. Texas, I think, has one of the largest solar arrays in the world. Don't quote me on that, but I think that has been funded by Bitcoin. We have flared gas being funded by Bitcoin. Bitcoin is 56 or 57% renewable energy right now. We have volcano energy generation in El Salvador, mining Bitcoin for El Salvadorians, Bitcoin has created that country from the highest murder per capita in the world to the lowest murder rates and safest country in the Western Hemisphere in the course of like 2 or 3 years. It's incredible. So Bitcoin is green. Energy is green. Bitcoin is embracing a green future.
Well, I've always found it a little ironic that, some of the biggest, loudest opposition to Bitcoin is oftentimes from some folks who I know who are big advocates for wind and solar.
Yeah.
I don't want to go too much on a tangent, but I've personally been a big critic of, in the state of Maine, kind of when I was there, this shift to over reliance on wind and solar, because I think it's kind of nice romantic notions of, hey, we're pulling, energy out of the air, we're pulling energy out of the sun, and there can certainly be a place for that, but like in a practical sense, it is right. I want to make sure I'm using terms that people back home will understand. It's intermittent and non-dispatchable, and intermittent means it doesn't run continuously, and non-dispatchable means it doesn't run when we decide it runs. It runs when the wind and the sun decides that it's those sources of energy are available. And so I think people oftentimes don't realize that what kind of level of instability that puts onto the grid, not just in terms of not necessarily having enough energy when you want it, but sometimes you can have more energy than you need. And that energy that goes onto the grid has to be used, or you have real problems with the infrastructure there. So it has to be used one way or the other. And so it seems, the moment someone pointed out to me, it seems so obvious. It's like, oh, Bitcoin mining is like one of the very first fully dispatchable forms of industry, and that you can turn it on and off on a dime based on whether it's profitable if the electricity rates are low enough. And when you literally have moments where on the grid that you can have, because of wind and solar that's being thrown on all at once, you can like have moments where sometimes, like for folks with variable electricity rates, that like literally the prices can go negative because the energy has to be used. They'll literally paying people to use energy. Then it's just like Bitcoin mining can just really bring a lot of stability to the whole infrastructure there. And so it's like, I don't know. I don't know how to get it through the heads of some of these folks who are kind of, advocating for wind and solar, that Bitcoin is like the perfect complement to this, not the danger they think it is.
Yeah, I think some of the things you're describing to me are the misallocations of capital. If you subsidize something to hell and high water, you're going to inevitably misallocate capital, because you're not able to make inputs based on what's happening in the real world. And so this is where the free market is the best capital allocator that we have ever known. And so I think that I don't get into politics of which energy generation you should use. I think that we will seek out the most efficient form of energy generation, and I think Bitcoin puts that on steroids.
Awesome.
That's actually, let me just say, that's a really good point. I was just thinking about the misallocation of capital and how that ties into the over financialization of the economy overall. And I just wonder, how that money could be better spent doing innovation and technological development, and not the grift and corruption that we see writ large in a variety of different sectors of the economy.
Yeah. I mean, if you have, this is like the light that Bitcoin shines on the world, where it reprices everything in a way that is reflected with the scarce nature of Bitcoin. And that allows us to I think it's no coincidence that Bitcoin is powered by well over 50% renewable energy. It's because renewable energy is more efficient and in some cases better. Obviously, I think it needs to be complemented with other types of energy generation, but the free market of Bitcoin is seeking out the cheapest forms of energy. And I think this is, flared gas, geothermal, these kinds of things, which are able to be more efficient. But in the big picture, I think is we just need to get the hands of our money printers and grifters essentially out of all of our affairs so that we can let the free market finally heal and, show us what is the best, the best way to do things.
And I would add to that Bitcoin to a great extent brings transparency to the money supply.
Yeah.
And our society, I would argue, for 100 years, if not more, has bifurcated between a covert and an overt society. We have two separate systems operating at the same time. And there are two tracks of research and development. And there's what the public is aware of, and there is what's in secret. And obviously, we don't know what is in secret. We have no choice but to speculate as to what those things are. But I think bringing transparency to the system in such a fundamental way, like the money supply, will help bring that back together and take our society, which I would argue has become somewhat schizophrenic, and reintegrate it.
Fix the money, fix the world, baby.
Absolutely. and we're going to have to, and I think that's a great kind of note to begin to close on, because there's so much more to talk about, but this conversation will have to continue at PorcFest.
I want to on that.
What's that?
On PorcFest. We'll have to continue at PorcFest at 9 a.m. At Liberty 101, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We're going to have the Nova Sapien team with donuts and coffee. We're going to be doing a Bitcoin boot camp and workshops on Wednesday morning, Thursday, Friday, Saturday at Liberty 101.
Awesome. Folks should get there. I'll try to make sure to stop by for one of them myself. And want to give you each any final word you want to kind of share with folks before we close out here?
Please come check me out on Twitter. I look forward to deep discussions on Bitcoin and politics and anything you have to throw at me.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I guess my intention for PorcFest this year is to give the what do they call you? Porcupines? What do you call them?
The folks attending PorcFest?
Yeah. Is there a name for them?
Well, Free Staters, we call ourselves Porcupines, but I guess everyone who comes to PorcFest is a porcupine if they want to be. So
okay, all the Free Staters, the porcupines. I feel like the free mind, the free thinkers of the Free State Project and of New Hampshire are the kind of people who are going to have Bitcoin locked away on old hard drives. And even if you're not sure, if you think this is a time. My intention is to give as many porcupines as possible their Bitcoin back from back in the day. That would be exciting for me to have as many of those as possible. I think that I expect to have those. I think that'd be really great. And I'm looking forward to celebrating the launch of Nova Sapien, novasapien.com. On Twitter or X, sorry, it's Nova Sapien BTC, NOVASAPIEN, Nova Sapien BTC on X. And we like any follow and any support helps right now. We've just launched. Our website doesn't have the online courses up yet. I'm doing consulting still one-on-one. And I'm just looking forward to being part of PorcFest this year and getting down with all the free thinkers of the New Hampshire.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. I really appreciate you coming on. I look forward to seeing you at PorcFest.
Hell yeah.
All right, everyone, that's the show. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Of course, we bring you a new episode every single Wednesday at 7 o'clock. If you are not subscribe, or, I guess different words for different platforms. Follow us on X, like us on Facebook, subscribe on on YouTube and Spotify and all your favorite podcasting apps. Do that and share the show with your friends. It's greatly appreciated, and they'll appreciate it too. So do that. Be a good neighbor. Share the show with your friends. And again, I will remind you, PorcFest is coming up soon, June 16th through the 22nd. We're getting there. Get your tickets, porcfest.com. Use my discount code, Granite Gulch. I'm giving it to you, 10% off, a gift from me to you. And get your tickets now, because again, they are going up. May 16th, prices are going up to $125. $125. You can get it now. The price is $100. Use my discount code. It's $90. So you do the math. Get your tickets now. We'll see you at PorcFest. And furthermore, my opinion is the Federal Reserve should be destroyed.